Now, we've currently only got 2 of our guests here. There's a little bit of a row over expenses for the third one. But hopefully it'll all be sorted a bit later. So in the meantime, could you please put your hands together and give a very warm Kaleidoscope welcome to Gail Renard and Nigel Plaskitt.
And it's wonderful to see you both, it has to be said. It's been probably about a year since I saw you last, Gail, and maybe a year and a half, 2 years, Nigel.
2 years.
It's wonderful to come back to Kaleidoscope again. Thank you very much indeed.
We haven't been able to find our way out of the ring road yet.
This has been said many times before, people who come to Stourbridge. But you came by train last time, you see, so you didn't have that experience. Anyway, it is lovely to see you both again. And I was just chatting to you generally earlier about work, because you're both as busy as always, aren't you, really?
Well, yeah. I've just finished doing a pilot programme for the Jim Henson Company and the BBC, which is a Saturday night evening show with a light entertainment thing. It's going to be a game show with puppets. Has a little bit of a feel of the Muppet Show about it, and if that goes, that'll happen sometime in the near future. Interestingly, we shot it at Elstree, at what was ATV Elstree. And it was in the same studio that they shot the Muppet Show. And while I was there, I wandered through to the stage where we used to shoot Pipkins, which was next door, and which is now full of EastEnders. So there's a bit of a change there. Well, not much of a change, but you know, yeah.
It doesn't seem right that. Sorry, it doesn't seem right that the EastEnders are at Elstree. It just doesn't.
No, it's not really East End, is it?
Is it? I mean, it's interesting you mentioned Jim Henson and the Muppets. I mean, I guess they're probably the kind of most public face of puppetry in this country nowadays. Jim Henson is always kind of associated. But are they the only people making puppet shows now, or are there plenty of others?
Well, I mean, no. I mean, they've virtually stopped. I mean, this is something kind of new again for them, a new venture in a way. Brian Henson is involved with it, and is one of the performers. And it's quite a few years since they've actually done anything, because the Muppets now are owned by Disney. So Jim Henson Company is completely separate from that. And but there's still quite a lot of puppets on TV, I think, now.
Well, that's exactly what I'm going to come to, because I mean, I'm a bit old to watch children's programmes nowadays.
Me too.
And I guess that's true. But you both worked in a heyday of children's broadcasting, really. And I'm just interested now as to what kind of work is out there in children's programmes nowadays. Do you think they're making as much as they used to? Or?
They're starting to again, and I think with the BBC's move to Salford, or Salford, depending where you're saying it, what's great is I think the CBeebies for the little ones are doing quite well, and things like Justin's House and all that's coming up. But what I don't see is the sort of the thing that I used to do a lot of, the sort of 5:30 time slot that the whole family would watch, whether it was Famous Five or something like that. And I think that's few and far between. A lot of if they're not American shows, they look like they're American shows. All the snappy street thing, and it's not necessarily topics that are British, that a British child can identify with. And I think that's a great problem that we have.
I mean, last time you were here, we talked obviously about the Famous Five and Kids from 47A and lots of those kind of comedy stroke drama series. You wrote Come Back Lucy, all those things.
You always remember more than I do.
Where would you say that the writing work is nowadays? Are you writing comics now? Are you writing novels?
No. I mean, I still do television. I mean, I also have always done adult television as well. But I've been also going through my stage writing. I've just finished writing a comedy stage play. Any of you have money for producing, see me after. No laughter, just money. And also, which I've written a book about my teenage experiences with John Lennon called Give Me a Chance, and I heartily recommend it. I would. And I've been spending a lot of time with that, which is very nice, doing various shows and talks about John Lennon and the Beatles.
Do you find that's bigger in America than it is over here?
There is here too. I just got back from doing the Liverpool Beatles convention, and unless you've been, it's once a year, thousands of people come from all over the world. And It's quite astounding. So, but now I'm going to be getting back because I'm starting. There's a new telly thing I want to write. So
Right,
it's
okay,
a prolific time. A prolific time, I hope.
And I think last time we saw you, Nigel, I think you were doing Chitty Chitty Bang Bang at the stage, I think, at the time.
No, it wasn't a Chitty Chitty Bang, it was Avenue Q.
Oh, sorry, one.
Avenue Q,
I
which
thought it was a
is...
mousetrap.
I did Avenue Q for 7 years now. I've been doing it. It's just kind of finally come to an end just recently. Haven't been performing in it. I was kind of as a director's role in that. And also Peppa Pig, the stage show of Peppa Pig, which I've just been doing, which is now taking a break, but is coming back at Christmas in London and then on tour again probably next year.
Wow.
Now, obviously, we're here, I suppose, with a bit of a focus on ATV today, and you mentioned the Muppets and Pipkins earlier.
Yeah.
Obviously, you both worked on Pipkins together. Had you worked together before?
No.
Before that? That was the first
Nor
time you
since.
came together.
I've never seen this man before in my life.
No, we worked together for, what,
9 years?
9 years, pretty much 9
Well, we
years.
still talk about doing something
Yeah, we
together.
do, yeah, and we are.
Sorry, a
still
little more
listening.
enthusiasm.
Yeah, oh, yes, we are. We are actually kind of looking into doing a project together maybe in the near future. So
A lot of writers say that they don't get the chance to even meet the performers nowadays or actually go on stage because but obviously in your day there was that opportunity obviously for writers to get to know.
when you say in my
show.
day,
Yes.
No, I mean there's ATV, I mean.
Yes.
in those days,
Absolutely.
yes, I think it's probably better to say. Yeah, we did. Because we were working together for 9 years, we did used to socialise and
yes.
we did get together and so we had the opportunity, which you don't often do these days, because you get one series, maybe two if the commissioning editor hasn't moved on, and then it's out. So very rarely do you get this long chunk.
Is it different? Well, obviously, you're used to writing for actors who act parts. Is it different writing for puppets in that sense of it?
Not at all, because you're writing for a character. And Hartley Hare is one of the great, he's paid me to say this. Hartley Hare is one of the great characters. It's the same way I've written for Disney. Writing for Donald Duck, you're not going to find a more rounded, three-dimensional character than Donald. And it was the same for Hartley in all those.
But I guess with something like Donald where it's animated, I guess the animation means you can write almost anything. But when you've got a puppet and you're limited by a set, does that kind of inhibit you as a writer to think you've got to keep to certain scenes or certain styles?
No, because just about everything you write is going to have a house style that's going to be dependent on budget, locations, and all the rest. So you look upon it like a challenge, and you go, okay, this is, these are the sort of boundaries or the house style. But once you know those, you just have fun and you try to make the best show ever.
Okay,
I think that's true. Whenever people ask me about this, I say, well, just write as if you were writing for a human character.
Oh, totally.
It may be, you don't give yourself restrictions, because we can always work something out. And from our point of view, it's good to have a challenge to try and make something work that maybe wasn't specifically written to hide behind a desk or something.
Okay.
Yeah. And it did improve when we got the new sets.
Oh,
Sorry, am I
yes.
going in and out of this?
I think it's that one you're actually on, as it were. But I think you're fine. We're picking you up all over the place. You
dear.
project beautifully. You could be an actress, you see. You project beautifully.
Yes.
Now, somewhere in the audience, let me have a young man called William. Is there a man called William in the audience somewhere? Come here, young man. Because we have a bit of a problem, you see. At the moment, Hartley won't appear for us because we haven't paid his expenses. Does your dad have a £5 note on him? Go and ask your dad if he's got a £5 note. Because we need to kind of pay him some money, otherwise...
£5?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, but that's just a starter. Just a starter. You do, right. Okay.
Hartley doesn't get out of
come on
bed
then.
for £5.
Yeah, but I know his dad's not very rich, you see. So no
And
okay,
he's a whole lot poorer now, by about
Will
five-
Hartley accept that on account, and we can
I'll
pay him
just
£100 afterwards? Is that okay?
Only on account that he's going to get the rest later.
Absolutely, yeah. Another £95
You heard that, Gail.
from Bob afterwards. That's fine. Okay. If that's okay, you can go and talk to Hartley and make sure he's happy with that video.
All right. Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. What's your name? Hello, William. You shake my hand. Oh, thank you very much. Oh,
Okay.
have you got the money, Gail?
Yes,
Good.
don't worry,
Okay,
Mark.
fine. That's all right.
The money's
half
there.
each?
Thank you,
Yes.
William. Thank you for your help. Without
Yeah,
the
okay.
£5, he wouldn't
Thank
have
you,
come out,
William.
he wouldn't, you see. So it's very
very good.
important.
Thank you,
that
William.
That's great.
Would you hold that for Hartley, please?
You can.
Cheers.
You can.
I'll
That's
see you
good.
later. We'll have our picture taken.
Okay.
All right? Yeah, okay, good.
That's the quietest William's ever been, I tell you. You have to take him home now. You'll go to, otherwise,
I'll come and find you later on.
That's good.
I will. I'll come and find you later on.
There you go. Okay. Good.
Okay. Bye. Bye.
Can I just say hello to Hartley? Because
No.
Thank you, William. Thank you, William. Now,
Hello.
Mr. Hare, it
Yes.
is lovely to see you again. Thank you very much for coming to see us. Last time I talked to you, you were just auditioning for the stage part in Watership Down.
Oh, yes.
And obviously, there was a slight problem because they were doing rabbits and you were a hare. So
Yes,
it
that's
wasn't-
right, yes.
So have you been up to anything since then? Did you get that part in the end? Or?
I've been in that black box down there.
In a black box. You mean you
Yes.
got buried in the ground?
Yes,
You poor
well,
thing.
no, I was in the cupboard. That's not true. No, that's not true. I've got some DVDs that have been released. Have
Really?
you seen the DVDs?
Is that the Pipkins release? that we
That's
saw?
right, yes, the Pipkins DVDs. I think that was, or maybe they were already released when I last saw you, I don't know.
I think there probably has been another one that's been released since,
Oh, really?
since we
Did you
probably
buy
last
it?
saw you. Yes, I did.
Oh, good, that's good. You bought it, Gail. Bought it, Gail. Yes.
Absolutely.
Good.
And I think you even made a new episode in there called 21st Century
You're
Pipkins,
right, I
didn't
did.
you?
I emerged again to do a 21st Century Pipkins.
Is this how you're going to make your money now, through personal appearances at events like ours?
I think that's a very personal thing to ask me. Do you mind?
Well, yes, but
You'll have to speak to the tortoise.
I think,
He deals with the money.
you see, I take my cultural influence from Jeremy Paxman, you see.
I don't care
ask
what you
awkward
take from Jeremy
questions, you know.
Paxman. You can ask me till you blue in the face.
Okay, well, I can ask you 27 times. He taught me that trick, you see.
Oh,
That's
well,
what he
go
wants
on
to
then.
see instead. But that's fine. You're looking very good, I must confess.
Thank you, so are you.
Okay, have you had some kind of like cosmetic surgery on your
I
fur
beg your
coat?
pardon.
You know, because
Never, no.
because you're looking very good for your age. I mean, if Uncle Mark, I think he's actually. Come take a photograph, Uncle Mark. We looked at some
well,
footage of you earlier, and you
yes.
actually look younger now than you did probably in 1976.
Well,
so-
I'll tell you my tip.
Okay.
Comfort in the last wash.
Fantastic. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
It is great.
Smells nice too.
No, you look wonderful. So now I've got the three of you together. You can
Oh,
tell
yes.
me what it was like making Pipkins. First of all, was she a good writer?
Fabulous. She
That's
paid
not
me
what-
to say that.
that's not what he says to me normally.
Oh, yes. No, she was fabulous.
Okay.
All of them were very good. 3 writers we had. Three wonderful writers.
Yeah. And we're all still friends, so that says a lot too.
Yes.
But surely, writing so many episodes over so many years, didn't you kind of ever feel the need to run out of an idea? I mean, wasn't, because, children, there's only so much you can do with children, surely.
I think I wrote 90 or 100 Pipkins. They were all the same. No. But I really did. No, I could sit down tomorrow and write you 10. It's
a good fun thing to
That's
do.
a deal. You can write a new one for us. That's a deal. That'd be
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yes, we'll do it.
What's really great is, as you notice, because William did it, and so am I, we speak to Hartley.
Absolutely.
Because, Hartley and I have lunch a lot, and Nigel sometimes comes too. And
Just a hanger-on.
yeah, but it is funny that I'll tend to address, and I'm really glad to see Hartley, because I haven't seen you for a few months.
No, I haven't seen you either.
And he doesn't write, he doesn't call.
No, she doesn't make me chicken soup. But I have got the tortoise couldn't be with us this afternoon.
So tell us about the gang, Hartley. Where are the gang now? What are they all doing?
The gang? Well, top of, rather unpleasantly, was in that box with me just now. Do you want to see him?
So we might actually talk to Top Off in a few minutes.
Well, you
and that
can't
could be
do
good.
that, because he can't speak back.
Oh, I see. Oh, right. But we could...
He's a bit stuffed at the moment, as they say.
well...
It's very sad because Tortoise was implicated in the banking scandals.
Yes.
Sort
It's
of.
true.
Yeah.
I've had to keep him at very low profile.
Yeah.
Fair enough, that's okay. That's okay. And the rest of the gang, Octavia, Mrs. Muddle?
Mrs. Muddle. Mrs. Muddle, she's gone off and got another job on some soap.
What, Daz, Purcell?
Yes, that's her. It's very clean. She's made a clean sweep, and she's gone off to Coronation Street.
Oh, right, okay.
She calls herself Audrey something now, I think.
Ah, well, perhaps one day you'll bring her with you and we can ask her herself.
If
about
she was here
what she's
now,
been
she
doing.
would be so delighted to be with me.
Oh, it's nice.
It's funny because I was watching Sue Nicol doing, I happened to see a show that she was in. She hasn't changed a bit.
No, she hasn't.
She really hasn't. And I'd also forgot what a great singer she was.
Oh, yes, she was.
Yeah. Oh, probably still
Like
is.
me.
Well, I know the secret, it's comfort, I've been told.
Oh, yes,
Yes.
that's right.
It's
Yes.
clearly Sue is washing in comfort.
Yes,
It's keeping her
absolutely.
young, which is
Yes,
fantastic.
yes.
That's good. And Pig?
tell her.
Pig?
Pig?
Pig. Almost lost that then. Pig. Yes. Well, Pig is decomposing a bit, I'm afraid. Pig's in for a renovation, I think, soon.
You should have had him smoked.
Actually, did anyone have the ham sandwich outside?
They are. Absolutely. Well, I guess that is the problem with being an animal that people eat.
Yeah.
Whereas hares, people don't eat, do they, you see, Hartley?
No.
So you're fine.
Well, they do.
Yeah.
I've heard I can be jugged. But no, it's all right.
Too sensitive.
I can take it.
Oh. So talk me through filming an episode of Pipkins. How long did it take?
How long did it take?
We did 2 in a day. So we would, usually just about 2 in a day, depending on the amount of film that was in the episode and inserted afterwards. So we would shoot all the film stuff in advance. So we'd have a week of filming on location in advance of the series. And then we would shoot 2 a week. Basically, we'd have a day's rehearsal. I'd spend half a day in the voice recording booth doing the voiceovers because I did the narration to it as well. If any of you remember the phrase, "It's time," I had to do that, not every week, of course. And then we would have a day and a half rehearsal, 2 days, about 2 days rehearsal, and then in the studio for a day.
Obviously, there were some live actors in it, as you mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
like Sue Nichols, etc. I mean, they must have found it quite hard trying to react against puppets, I'd have thought.
Sue had a ball. She
Yeah.
particularly did have a ball, and she still does whenever we talk about Hartley. She sends Hartley messages all the time. She's quite mad. And no, she had a ball doing it, and she says it was one of her most favourite jobs.
Yeah.
Was it filmed around the Elstree area, or did they actually come up to Birmingham and
Yeah.
do some of the stuff in Birmingham?
No,
No.
we shot entirely in Elstree because of the budget.
Although we did go to the Bethnal Green Children's Museum.
Yes, and we went to Southend. We did actually do.
Which
we
was,
did go away
which was one at
places.
Southend?
We went on the pier. I can't remember
Oh,
what it was,
yeah.
but I just remember going on the train on the pier. So we did get out of the area, but it was never really specifically meant to be a Midlands-based show.
I never
It was
thought of
kind
it in
of
Midlands.
no,
at
it
all.
was kind of supposed to be somewhere in England. You know, it was never really so that all the kids around the whole country could identify with it really. So that's hence, you know, Hartley's definitely not a Midlands character.
Yeah.
The pig was,
Absolutely.
Top of wasn't, Tortoise was East End, you know. East End, a bit like that, you know, a little bit of this, a bit of that, you know. So they had a little bit of everything there, really.
Did you ever envisage it becoming something that even now, 30 years later, we can be talking about in
No
Stourbridge?
idea.
No.
No.
I mean, did we ever think, because it was one of our first jobs, that, you know, all those years ago,
Yeah,
that we'd be sitting here? No,
Not
it's,
at all.
it's great.
One of the interesting things is that now, you know, people who are doing shows now, and indeed about for this show as well, there's the internet, and everybody, there's immediate response to shows that are being produced now. Well, we had none of that. We barely ever saw a letter, even if there were letters coming in. Occasionally we would see one. But
No,
we
they
had,
wouldn't have shown us.
No, they wouldn't have shown us. It just would never have come through to us.
No, and
so
also-
we made it in a
yeah.
vacuum in a way, didn't we?
Yeah, and also, if you remember, it was our producer wouldn't have shown us, but ATV was a huge studio setup, and there's a publicity department, and it would have gone to the PR department. And also, which was nice, everyone would be answered with a Pipkins photo. I've
Yeah.
still got mine. I've got lots. I've come
But she
across.
used to write in all the time.
And all the Pipkins was produced and directed by Michael Jeans.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's still alive or not, but
Unfortunately.
Sadly
right,
died
he has passed
about
away.
18 months ago, I think, didn't it? Was it?
Right.
Yeah, he died, yeah. He didn't direct them all, he directed most of them.
Well, I thought he'd done them all.
Because
It's interesting.
occasionally he would step that down, but only very rarely did he
that's right.
step down, and they had a few
Yeah.
people that stepped in and directed them.
And did that help having the same person in charge all the way through?
Absolutely, yeah. We were a really tight-knit team,
Oh,
you know,
yes.
very small, you know, 10 of us at the most, you know, including all the production team, you know, so...
Because it could have all finished when Inigo Pipkin, I guess, finished, when the man,
Yes.
George Woodbridge, I think, who died.
Yes, in the middle of series 2.
Yeah, did they think about just cancelling it then and stopping
No,
it?
it wasn't ever considered. I think immediately, I don't know, Michael may have had some fights to keep it going, but he immediately said, no, what we'll do is we'll just go on and we'll change the format slightly.
Because also remember that television has changed so much, because in those days it was the ITV franchise system. So ATV had a certain amount of quota hours a year. as did Thames and did the others. So that was ATV's slot. That was a permanent slot for the year. So it was theirs.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and also they didn't have to check every moment with committees about, can we change this, can we do that? They trusted that they had, if one dare say, under the ATV roof, some of the best people going, and then they trusted you to get on with your work.
Michael Jeans once told me that he was left completely alone, really, to do what his thing. And occasionally, I think he said about twice a year, Lou Grade's head would come around the door and he'd say, "Hello, are you all right?" He'd say, "Fine, okay," and that was
exactly it.
That was all the involvement he had. So
Yeah.
Lou would set these things up, and he would trust the people that he was, he was.
Now, of course, when ATV came to an end in 1981,
Oh,
which was
Don't
a
remind
great show, and Central kind of started. Now, because Michael Jeans carried on making Let's Pretend,
Yes.
and you carried on writing Let's
Yes, I
Pretend,
did, yeah.
but Pipkins did finish at the same time. I've always wondered why
Well,
Pipkins
because
was wrapped up then.
Pipkins belonged to ATV,
Yeah.
and so the rights and everything of the characters at that moment belonged to ATV. So what Central didn't want to get into was having to buy more of the product, and they had to. They had to buy Crossroads because that was still going out at that time, and there were one or two other shows that they bought the rights to. But essentially, that was the reason that it stopped.
also, I don't recall the handover as being very happy at all.
No,
it was very unhappy.
acrimonious.
And it was the closing of Elstree, because what I always remember was, if we remember Alvida Zane Pett and also Harvey Moon were being made around that time. And it wasn't at the same time, because in the first or whatever series of Harvey Moon, they were living in their East End block or wherever it was, or Hackney block. And they ended it with an explosion. That I think the building exploded, and then they had to be moved in the next series. And the same thing with Alvida Zane Pett. There was a major explosion at that building site. It's the same way that all sets have been exploding in the past year because they have to rebuild HD sets. So, the Corey Viaduct wasn't a storyline. It was a way of writing off the sets, and so everyone's done that. And you'll notice we were lucky, we escaped.
I haven't been written off, no.
No.
True.
But they, sort of all the ATV series self-destructed because those that remained
Well,
moved.
it was very few.
Yeah, actually,
Crossroads, I think,
Harvey Moon, I think I seem to recall in
There
Nottingham.
was a crossover that went from being a sitcom to being a more drama
Yeah,
series.
and I always remember as well, because there was a great, that's right, because there was a great page of script from Harvey Moon about just before Nan and Harvey had to move out of their flat that they'd been in forever. And it was, "I don't want to go, Harvey. I don't want to go to wherever it was. I think it was a Newtown or something, and see all those strange people." And someone had put it up on the ATV notice board, and it crossed out, and it was just, "I don't want to go to Nottingham. I don't want to." And I think that's the way everyone felt. You had a great studio. You had some of the greatest, crews and staff in the world, and they were grazing it to the ground to start again. Somewhere in Nottingham.
Obviously, after Pipkins had started, we had things like the Muppet Show come along and Spitting Image as well, both of which you worked on, Nigel.
Yeah.
I mean, was that partly because people saw the skill of puppeteers in shows like the Pipkins and thought we can exploit that more for adult audiences as well, or was it more just a coincidence?
I'd like to say yes, but I don't know that was. I think it was Jim's idea to do the Muppet Show, and he tried to sell it in the States, but couldn't get the funding, and came here, and Lord Grade was very keen to make it happen. So he basically gave him an open-ended budget to produce the Muppet Show.
Yeah, I was going to say, 2 points about that, if I may, was one of the saddest things. I was at Lord Grade's memorial service, which was sad to begin with because he was a hero. And various ATV people paid tribute. And the Muppets, do you ever see what they did a special film for Lord Grade?
Right.
They did their own version of There's No Business Like Show Business, a very sad, slow version. And I'm going to cry because it was one bit. Everyone told us we would not go far, but then you came and made us stars. And they meant it.
Yeah.
But no, the Muppets was going when we were going.
The Muppets started in 1975-ish, I think.
Or 4 or 5.
Yeah. And so we did actually benefit from them because they were using raised sets, whereas originally we were using sets on the floor. And the Muppets came in and started using raised sets, and Mike Jeans went in to watch them working and thought, oh, this gives them a lot more freedom of moving around the characters. And as most of the characters in Pipkins were puppets, it seemed logical to create a world that was raised up. So that's what we did. So about halfway through the series, we moved. We did the move early.
Yeah.
We didn't explode or anything else, we just moved. And we moved into a set that was different, and we made a point of that. And
Oh, that's right.
and then everybody else, when the actors came in, they had movable platforms that they would fill the floor in with, basically.
And life became a lot easier because before we had the raised sets, thanks to the Muppets, Nigel would have to be underneath tables.
Sitting on the floor.
You know, you had to hide him, and you had to hide. It's like in an ordinary room like this. It's Where's Wally? Nothing personal.
Very difficult.
And so it was also harder for the writing because there was, you know, you had to make sure that you could hide Nigel.
It gave you a freedom, I think. Gave us much more freedom.
Yeah, and also you could walk.
Yeah, we could walk
because
around,
there were trenches. There were literally trenches, so you could see Hartley moving and all the rest. So it did free things up. It never quite felt the same, though. I mean, it was easier for you.
And it was just a different set.
Yes, it was.
It was just a different feel to it. It was less ramshackle, I think.
Yes, we tortured you less.
Yes.
Hartley,
Yes.
At what point did you become aware, really, that the show was becoming more and more about, I guess, your show, and you were becoming the icon of the show?
Oh, yes, well, that was very obvious and very early on. I carried these people with me, you know. But it was a bit...
I've heard this for 30 years.
Well, again, sweetheart.
Okay.
No, I was very... It was very obvious that there had to be a focus. Focus.
But you didn't. I mean, it had to be said. I mean, you're not a puppet. You're a real rabbit. You're a real hare.
Well, I'm real
Aren't
to
you? You're a
me,
real
I have
hare.
to say.
You are absolutely real. I mean, even in later life, you started making appearances on other shows, like the Pig Attraction.
Yes, the
didn't
Pig
you, as
Attraction.
well?
I did the Pig
You know,
Attraction.
and doing your own pilots.
Yes,
as
that's
well.
right. I did.
I mean,
Yes, I did a little thing for the DVDs. I did 40 years of the best television or something like that, best children's television. Yes, I've been around a bit, you know.
Can I say Hartley is realer than a lot of actors I've worked with? And a lot more sincere as well.
Oh, well, that's true.
So you're amazing. Yes, come on, it's time we met some of your friends. Let's have a look at who else you brought with you, Hartley, in your entourage.
Stuffed, as I said.
Do you want a spare arm?
Oh.
Actually,
Can I help you at all? Do you want me to help you at all?
well, what I'll do is I'll put him over here because he can't be... Sadly, he's deteriorating and to a point where he's...
Oh, he looks okay.
I can't get up without knocking myself in here.
Wave a little, probably, but not.
Yeah, it's just the top, it's his head. It's because he's foam. Let me put him down here.
There you go.
Hi,
Would you hold him for a second?
Oh, come here, Hart.
I just don't know if I can... Let's bring him over a bit, that's better. No, he's deteriorating because he's foam.
Talk us through how they're made, absolutely.
Okay, well, the idea with the original puppets were that they should be made out of things he found around the house. Mr. Pipkin, who was the originator, would find a foam, made the pig completely out of foam. And this character too was made out of foam. He was supposed to be somebody's old jumper.
I beg your pardon.
He wasn't he
Well,
Michael
hares
Jean-
can jump.
He was.
Yeah.
That's true.
But wasn't he Michael Jean's old cardigan?
Oh, quite likely.
Yeah.
Quite likely. I wasn't there when he was that, so...
Yeah, and that was the idea of the characters, is that they should all look slightly well-loved toys, you know. So everybody says, oh, but the puppets are always looking so shabby compared to Zippy and George. But in actual fact, they were designed that way to actually give children the feeling that they were kind of well-loved toys. So
Don't mention Zippy and George to me, please.
I was gonna say that because we didn't. Rainbow and Pipkins were
No.
opposite camps.
They were.
dear.
Watch what you're saying when you use that word.
dear. So
Okay.
it was you who leaked that sex tape of Rainbow, was it,
Oh,
on the
yeah.
internet?
Yes, I did.
Yes, absolutely.
no, it was a
Never mind.
very different piece, really. Rainbow was a very different animal to Pipkins. Pipkins, I think, was the only piece of drama for 3 to 5-year-olds I think I've ever seen on TV. I don't think there's ever been anything like it quite since for that age group.
And what was great was they were a family. And it was a different family,
Yes.
but so are most families.
I wouldn't say I was related to that, would you?
Was there an educational advisor then,
Speak
Gail?
to me, speak.
Oh dear.
If we might have had, we did have
an education advisor.
Yeah, but to be very honest, we knew, the writers knew what we were doing. We knew the
They
boundaries.
ignored him, is what she's saying.
No, there were certain things. The main rule is never show a child what not to do. You wouldn't have a close-up saying, don't stick your finger in the electrical socket, because you'd have a nation of children going to,
Yeah.
So it's don't show them what not to do. And also keep within their vocabulary. Well, not even so much their vocabulary, because Hartley's got a very large one.
I beg your pardon. Well, I think this conversation is going in the completely opposite direction.
See, this is the sort of thing we couldn't do. Well, we did on the children's show.
I think you did quite a few double entendres at time, actually, for the adults' benefit, not the kids.
What? Surely not.
To be honest, I was watching one or two back before I came here, and I thought, my God, one of them was close to porn.
I hadn't noticed that, I must confess.
I did say that every so often I would add a little something on the end of a scene, like a comment
Yes.
or something. Normally just meant for the crew to make them laugh, and which is not. But sometimes Michael left them in because he liked it so much, and you can tell that because there's usually a gap before the scene ends, and then I'll say something, and then if the scene ends, it does. I've seen them on some of the DVDs.
You mentioned a very interesting subject there as well, because I guess one reason why Pipkins has a new legion of fans is because it's out on DVD now.
Yeah.
And that is something that I suppose is unusual in itself, because ATV destroyed so much of their episodes. But fortunately, people like yourself, Nigel, actually kept them, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I was a big gadget fan.
Oh, yes.
And so I had a recorder from virtually the time they were starting, which was mid-70s. And so certainly from about mid-70s onwards, I was recording a lot of the shows. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with them, but I just kept them on tape, And they sat in the cupboard for years until Network approached me to put them on the DVDs.
Well, I keep hoping that some more will come out. I mean, I don't know
Well,
whether they ever plan.
speak to Network, write to Network,
Absolutely,
tell them, and they'll bring, because I've got more still on disc, one of which you're going to see later on.
Yes, yeah.
Because I was telling Nigel on the way up, because I just gave the first Pipkins DVD to my friend's 2-year-old, and she put it on right away. And we sat there, and within 2 minutes, she just clapped her hands and went, very funny. And you thought, it's still... but she did think he was a bunny, and I had to explain.
Yeah. Well, even I've nearly made that mistake today,
Yes.
that he's a hare,
Yeah.
Thank you.
as opposed to being a rabbit, And that's
Yeah,
become...
but,
Don't
it's not,
mention that in my presence.
but, I did wonder how she'd react to it. And the answer is, took to it like a hare, the hare's like water.
Probably.
Like a hare to gin,
More
in this
gin,
case.
yes.
Have you managed to share your fame with somebody, Hartley? Have you found a partner in your travels?
Just this. This monkey.
Oh.
Speak to me, Topov. Speak. No, as usual. No. Actually, there was Octavia at one time. She and I had a popular little relationship. And Mrs. Modell, as I like to call her, was very, very friendly towards me. So I'm still hoping there,
Actually, did we have any other female characters?
There was a cat at one time called Sophie. There was a
She did-
pigeon
yes, I never-
called Pigeon. That's original, isn't it? There was, what else? There must be others. There was Granny.
Which one was Granny?
Granny? No, she was a real person. And she was a granny, funnily enough. And there was Bertha, who was Johnny's
That's right.
sister.
Yes, I do remember.
I hated her.
Why did you hate her?
Oh, that's a long story, Chris.
We have
I'll have
plenty
to
of time.
tell you another. No, I couldn't repeat it in public.
Oh, fair enough.
She was a lovely person. I loved her very much.
Well, but Hartley, there's nobody listening. There's only us here. It's okay.
Do you think I'm stupid? Stupid I am not.
Well, no, you had your expenses up front. This is very
You're
true.
right. Well, the tortoise insists on that always.
Absolutely, absolutely. Never mind.
She's very-
Any questions from the audience? Before I go any further, let's see if anyone's got any questions for either Gail or Nigel or Hartley.
Don't leave
not
me till
top
last,
there.
please. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. Okay, Hartley or Gail or Nigel. Put that order. Any questions? Now that's how popular
This is
you are.
going to
Then
be
you can
quick,
go home
isn't
now.
it? I must have said everything there is to be said. Oh, yes.
Smudge.
As you know, Gail, I'm literally just finishing your book this morning. how it compares sitting with John Lennon to sitting in the same room as a megastar.
Oh, very good question.
All I can think is, once again, I'm in the company of greatness.
Yes, well, how political.
Yes.
How political, how very nice.
And we're thinking of doing a bed-in as well. You know.
Yes.
I don't think we should go any further that conversation. Okay, you already mentioned the pornography in Pipkins.
Yes.
Which will be the headline of the national newspaper tomorrow. So, never mind. Yeah, it's an interesting question because we talked a little about your Beatles connection last time with John Lennon, really, didn't we? As it were. I mean, is that something that you're happy to talk about, or do you find that people just only talk to you about it nowadays? Yeah.
I'm happy to talk. I'm always just happy when people talk to me. You know, so.
I saw the lyrics that Gail had written on this piece of paper, which she used to have on her, we were talking about this on the way out, which she used to have on the wall in her house until she realised how valuable they were. Then they went elsewhere.
Yes, because I realised they were very valuable, because they grew more so because you didn't have pop or rock memorabilia. It only started around 1985, and I was getting nervous, and so I took them off the wall to put them somewhere safe. I put them underneath my bed, and they stayed there for many years. But no, you remember them.
I do remember them on the wall, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, as somebody who collects antiques, which is more glass antique, glass antiques I collect normally, it is fascinating how sometimes people don't realise the value of what they have in their houses.
Oh,
I mean,
totally.
you know, and they think that it's worthless or whatever, you know,
Totally.
until someone comes along.
I was going to explain, sorry, John Lennon had given me his original handwritten lyrics to give Peace a chance. And it was on a large, because it was a sing-along, and it was lovely. And he said, take it, it'll be worth something one day. And he never lied to me yet.
Absolutely.
My mother kept wanting to throw it away because she thought it was, she said, it's rubbish, you know. No, I mean, I'm very, very grateful to John, as indeed I am to Hartley.
But I think that's an interesting point, which comes back. I mean, obviously you had the foresight, Nigel, to keep top of or whatever, and keep the DVD, keep the VHSs or Betamaxes.
Yeah.
But these things were thrown away, and we have the same issue with old television now, that people are chucking away things all the time, and even modern television being chucked away, just assuming that it's not important, or somebody else has kept it, so I don't need to bother. And that's a great shame, the kind of throwaway society we have, really.
Yeah.
You know.
I was always surprised that ATV didn't keep their masters, because ATV, more than anyone, knew the value of continuing showbiz.
Yeah. I just think when it closed down in '81,
Yes.
that everything kind of went into a limbo, really.
Yes.
So nobody knew where anything was, and I think the guys at Network told me that when they did their original deal with ITV, they went into the store where they had all the tapes from ITV's days, and he said there were stacks of tapes that weren't catalogued and were just stored in the corner. Nobody knew what was on them, and they wouldn't let them go in to catalogue it either.
No, and to my knowledge, which might have come from you or someone else, that, I mean, nobody knew what happened to most of the ATV masters, because I had various ATV series, because it was where I started, and they finally found them in a warehouse outside of Heathrow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
and nobody knew they were there. They were just stored. And
That was where he was talking about. I
yeah,
think.
and so they keep finding. I mean, I have a lot of different things. I mean, you have most of my Betamax now. I've still got some Pipkins Betamax tapes. I must have another look and see which episodes I've got. But you would have gone through those at some point, I
I
think.
don't know if we spoke about this, but we should do
I'll
it,
double check
put
it.
them on the list.
Well, seems like, I don't know if how much you got any Pipkins on Betamax. I know we have things, some of your Comeback
I've got-
Lucy's and Let's Pretends.
Okay.
You might still have the Betamaxes of your
I think I
Pipkins
do.
then. That's right, then there you go.
Oh, well,
in
if
which
you
case
want
they
to-
would certainly be worth looking at. You
Okay.
probably have all the missing ones, Gail, we've been looking for
I
for the
hope.
last 20. You heard it here first,
Yes,
folks,
I'll
last
have a look
20
when I
years,
go
so there you
back.
go.
'Cause
Hang on to them, Gail. Remember John Lennon.
I've also got, I should think I've got most of my Pipkins scripts, or a great many.
Isn't that fascinating, you see?
Yeah,
and that's
because-
what we
oh.
sometimes only have as surviving memories.
I
suppose.
always keep scripts, and I
Yes,
probably
yes.
have things like call sheets, the
Yeah.
odd call sheets and
Yeah, I
things.
think I've got all some of those.
I've definitely got my Pipkins contracts. Me too. if there are any writers here, always ask for copies of your contract, even if you have an agent, and always keep them, because it's been wonderful, if I do say so, because with these old series, very often they're being bought by 10th parties, and they're claiming they don't owe you money. And I am able to produce a contract from way back saying, if you look at my 1974 contract, there wasn't a mention of DVDs. You don't have the rights.
Absolutely.
So it's very, very helpful
Yes.
that. But Nigel is, I mean, I'm not bad, but Nigel has always been the supreme businessman as well.
Oh, no, not me. Oh, yes.
He kept books properly.
I think, though, that you need people with that foresight. I mean, it's actually amazing over the years how many people have come to events, and just like you've done there, mentioned something casually and suddenly said, I think at home I've got such and such floating around, because often people do keep stuff and don't know what it is, don't know whether it's got a value or not, and often then don't know what to do with it as well afterwards. It is absolutely fascinating how this happens time and time again, so I'm glad that some people had the foresight to hang on.
He's leaving. You should be used to that by now, Hartley.
Have you actually talked money with him, though, Hartley, about the residuals he's going to make off these photographs tomorrow in the News of the World?
Yes, I know. I've talked. What? He's got a deaf ear.
That's fine.
He doesn't listen to me.
Yeah, I hate to say, because I've also got, aside from all my script files from what I've written, I've got a lot of other series and scripts from other things. So
On sale at the door as we leave.
Well, no, because when you were in a studio system and you're light-fingered,
You're a friend of Bob Monkhouse, after all.
Yes, you just used to, and also read each other's scripts, and you pick them up for the train ride home or whatever.
Absolutely.
So I've even got, because when I started BBC Radio, I was on Weekending like every other comedy writer did first. I think I've come across some Arthur Askey and Ted Ray scripts that I must have picked up from Aeolian Hall when that still existed.
We are very glad for people like you who did just that.
Yeah.
Because without it, so much of the past would have gone, unfortunately, it has to be said. Are there any more questions from the audience?
You know, you've got the characters, Pipkins, you've got the tortoise, the hare. When you put them together, did you put that combination deliberately together? Or why that particular combination? You said it was a shabby old toy. Now, I can remember having a hare as a child, but I can never remember having a pig or a tortoise. Is there a particular reason for those?
Interesting question.
Probably for their characteristics, because pig could be greedy. Block Top Off's ears, because I'm going to say something. Top Off was our resident idiot. Top Off would never understand anything, and he was the lowest.
He was the child, Gail.
I was going to say lowest common denominator, but he was the child. So if we would say something, or it'd be a new theory or something that
Something needed explaining.
it would always be, you'll notice it's Top Off who says, I don't understand Hartley, or,
However, I knew everything, so that was all right.
So I think it was looking,
Clever as a hen.
it's a good question, but I think it's, Octavia, the ostrich, was vain. But the interesting thing is, at least from my point of view, it'll be interesting to hear from the audience's point of view, whenever we introduce new characters, which is why I don't remember, they never worked, Sophie the cat means nothing to me.
No. They survive. They nearly always survive very briefly.
Yeah,
Because we had a very good setup with the 5 or 6 characters that we had.
And we used to fight about which characters, because we could only have so many puppeteers per show. Nigel, thank God, was always there, and you were Hartley and Tortoise, and who else?
And Mooney the Badger,
Of
and
course.
the voiceover,
Yes.
and Uncle Hare, and Angus McHare.
Yeah.
And they got their money's worth.
Whereas, Pig was one actor, Top Off was another, and we could rarely afford both at once.
Yeah.
So, we would see who had the Pig ideas, and you went through stages, I can confess this now. You would have favourite puppets and also favourite puppeteers, I hate to say.
Well, I'm very pleased to hear you say that, Gail, because I think I know who you're going to say. No, go on.
No, as wonderful as everyone was, there were some that you went, why don't you have them this week? So we used to, it was very nice because there were always 3 writers, and
Sorry.
the last mate.
Don't encourage him.
I'm sorry.
Usually there are rabbit ears behind you in a photo. I have Hartley.
Sorry.
Sorry. There were usually 3 writers. Susan Pleat, who did all of them.
Yeah.
She was there from the start. And she was the co-creator, wasn't she?
She
Nigel?
was, yeah, she was the co-creator,
Yeah.
for the record.
Yes, with Michael Jeans, and she was brilliant, still is, and we're all still friends. But Susan, and first it was Billy Heyman, and then it was Dennis Bond.
Yeah.
The three of us writers would meet, and we'd have a lot of meetings throughout the year because we'd plot out, how many, did we do 26 a year, or how many?
26, yeah.
Yeah, and then
26,
repeated most of them.
Yeah.
So it was, we did it in blocks of 13, didn't we?
Yeah.
So, every 6 months, the writers would get together for a few days with our
No, I
ideas.
think it was actually more, but I'm not sure.
I think so it was, because they weren't all repeated.
No.
And if you had displeased the producer in some ways, he got back at you at repeat time.
You didn't get your repeats.
Yes.
I mean, yeah.
And it really, sort of, God bless
Wonderful.
him.
Brilliant.
Did you notice that?
No, because I was in all of them, so it
Yeah.
didn't matter.
So you knew,
Yes.
and he did it to keep you on your toes. Happy days. So it was, but no, we all got on very
At the
well.
risk of asking a question you can say no to, I'm just interested by comparison. What were you paid for a typical Pipkins show as a writer or a performer? Out of interest.
Enough.
I was well paid. I'm trying to remember because I almost never forget a fee. I would have to look it up.
I'm just interested as to whether or not it, comparison to today,
Well-
you feel today they pay you less or pay you more.
Probably better.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I think, I remember at the time, it's very difficult because obviously everything was worth,
Yeah.
the
Absolutely.
values were different. I was working in the theatre when I started Pipkins, and I was being paid, but what they offered me on Pipkins was twice what they were paying me in the theatre.
Oh, yeah.
And then twice again because we were doing 2 shows a week. So
Right.
you can imagine I was earning 4 times
Yeah.
what I was earning in the theatre.
Yeah.
It's as easy. Let's leave it at that, shall we?
But I'm interested
So a
because
lot,
it is
yeah,
true.
it
There's a
was-
lot more money in
Yeah.
television, I think.
There was a lot
There
more.
was.
20, 30 years ago.
Also, you had your rate, your studio rate, if you were at BBC or ATV or whatever. You were on your rate, and you wouldn't get less for doing another series.
BBC always, you were on a special low, whatever you did.
Yes.
Oh, this is a special low. Normally we wouldn't pay you this, but
Yeah, they used to. The old joke, which all the comics used, was there was a BBC tartan, very small checks. But with ATV, so no, we were very well
Yeah,
paid.
well paid,
Plus, those were the days before digital that you were guaranteed at least one what was called terrestrial repeat on the network, and then you got 100% of your fee again. And overseas, I mean, there's still now we get digital overseas sales.
Yes,
You're paid differently. But no, we were very, very well paid.
So, in actual fact, Hartley, I imagine your borough or whatever must have been an extremely well elaborate place to live.
Lavish. Lavish is the word. I was very sumptuous is another word I use. No, it's just a hole in the ground, actually. But it was home to me.
But now that explains why you look so good for your age, though, because
thank
clearly
you.
you've had lots of cosmetic surgery on the teeth and
Who is
and
this?
hair
Who is
transplants,
this man?
all the
Who
rest
is
of it.
this man? Cosmetic surgery on my teeth? No, it's still the same plastic cup they were in the years ago. I think it's probably the only thing that's the same.
Fantastic.
Was it a plastic?
Now, obviously, I can see you bought top off. Have you brought anybody else with you, Hartley?
Yeah, I
at all?
have. This is something not connected with this at all, but I thought,
Absolutely, that's okay.
I thought
but-
people might like
Yeah,
to see
you like
this
to bring your friends.
character.
Presumably, you're the agent for these other puppets
Oh,
nowadays,
yes, well,
making money off
tortoise is.
them.
The tortoise is.
Okay.
He does the deal.
So we're lucky that the tortoise has agreed for them all to come today, really, then.
yes. Okay, so this,
Oh, no.
he's going to say goodbye for now.
Oh.
This is another character.
I got very upset when Nigel told me he was in the black box at the back of the car.
Well, he should be in the front seat,
Well,
absolutely.
he should. I was looking forward to a
This is
chat.
another character that
Hey.
I'm involved with,
Ah,
who does a bit of advertising
absolutely.
for PG Tips. moment.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Okay. And I see you. I see you have your Facebook page. Does
Yes,
Hartley
I
have a
do.
Facebook page there
No.
as well? No. Oh,
I
Hartley's
think
missing
so.
a trick there,
I
isn't
think
he?
so.
It has to
No,
be
yeah,
said.
absolutely.
Fantastic. So what work are you doing at the moment then, Monkey?
Well, Monkey, I'll talk for Monkey
Yes, right, 'cause
because
Monkey doesn't really speak,
actually
does
Monkey
he?
doesn't speak with my voice. Monkey
Yeah.
speaks with Ben Miller's voice.
Yeah.
So I'll speak for Monkey. Monkey's advertising PG Tips at present, and he's also got he's actually owned by Comic Relief. Comic Relief owned the character because when he was originally promoting ITV Digital, and when ITV Digital went bust, he became an asset of the company, or so they tried to say. But the Jim Henson Company, who first made him, and the advertising agency all claimed bits of him. So somebody suggested that they give him to Comic Relief. And so now Comic Relief owns him, and Unilever, who own PG Tips, pay Comic Relief a sum every year for using him. So it's all turned out rather well.
Absolutely. Wonderful. It is great to see you, Monkey. I must confess that.
Thank you. Right. That's it.
I assume you're a tea drinker.
No,
Oh dear, so that must be quite hard advertising a product you don't like.
but I do take comfort.
Oh, there you go. Is your owner, Mr. Plaskitt, possibly sponsored by Unilever, do you think?
it could be. Yeah, he certainly is.
Fantastic. Well, it got to be said, I mean, I'm going to stop slightly early because I'm sure 1,000 people want to take some pictures of you before we have our kind of afternoon tea break, and you must join us for afternoon tea. Fantastic cakes cooked by the Arna Light, as always. And I'm sure, I said about standing autographs, thousands of people with their cameras are about to inundate you, but I'm going to say, Nigel and Gail, it's a pleasure to see you.
Pleasure.
And thank you for bringing your friends with you again. Brilliant.
My pleasure.
Nigel and Gail. I love you, Gail. So feel free to come and take pictures. And our latest book is for sale. And maybe Rex is here somewhere to sign it. I'm not quite sure. Actually, that's quite